residential areas because they didn't cast enough around it.
Right.
So apparently that's changed, which is fine. I'd rather have the LED.
And again, I'll double check this with Kevin, but I think that was all part of the research that he's put into where we're at now.
Okay.
And why the fixtures that are proposed are there is because it gives you actually more light than what we have today. So it is not going to decrease your light if we have acceptable lighting
Well, it
standards now.
wasn't to decrease, it was the fact that current standards require more light,
Right.
more
More
candle
telephone
footer
poles,
or
basically.
whatever. I'm
I'll
just-
I'll verify
I
that.
don't want to get halfway in and find out we got to put in
Twice as many?
twice as many.
Right.
So, fundamentally, I think LED lights is the way to go. I mean, you see cities around the United States that are being praised for doing that. I agree with you, Al. The timing of it, of $250,000, may not be right, but can you explain? So it will be IndyTel, which in the end is still all the city, but IndyTel will do all of the due diligence and the figuring of this, or how will it be financed?
Well, that IndyTel through WPPI is what we're looking at, is seeing if that's a possibility that we can make work. Again, I'm not proposing that any of this come straight out of our coffers. I don't think that that's appropriate. But with your permission, we'll go and ask the Light and Power Board to partner with us. Again, whether it be through WPPI or whatever we can do to do it. There's a couple different programs out there, WPPI being the most practical.
That's what we did with the lights John referred to, WPPI, and then we just paid for them with our savings.
Right. The difference in cost covered the note.
And when we look back on that, the savings were actual. They were
Yeah.
verifiable and actual. Okay.
And I think if you look on your iPad, there's some pictures on there that show 2nd Street and 4th Avenue Southeast, the difference between the HPS street lights and the LED street lights as far as
Yeah.
how it, so I can't imagine that any federal standards that those wouldn't be meeting for the difference in what it's doing.
Well, but you never know.
Yeah.
You might not imagine
Right.
it, but Bob's right. We should check. And I'm sure Kevin and
Yes.
Light and Power will.
And the
Yeah, they're not gonna
committee.
put them up, they're not right.
No.
One thing we,
Have, so.
you mentioned the downtown would go from 2 to 1, and I know the committee has discussed that high and low, and one of our problems is our poles were really higher than what they should have been
So we're gonna
for
cut 'em?
the light dispersal. So, but one can, with the new style, we can get more light showing downward.
Instead of into the second floor apartments.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons we went to get to stay with like we are would have been very, very expensive. And there's also some discussion that those lights, maybe somebody else might be interested in them too.
Right.
You know, that don't know, but they might.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
motion by Holland, seconded by
Second.
Grover.
Well,
Your
this
motion,
is
you-
contingent on,
Contingent
says
on funding through Indy Light and Power,
okay.
Right.
It's,
regardless.
it's as
That's what the
it's
motion
as it reads
itself
here, the
is.
motion to approve the LED proposal and request funding support from
Right.
Independence Light and Power.
Right.
Correct.
That's what your motion is. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, under new business, is the ADA curb ramps and pedestrian crossings.
Tim Donnelly has put a nice package together concerning our ADA accessible ramps around town. He's finished an inventory of what has been completed, what has not been. And again, as you read through here, it focuses on some of those things that we have done, the state requirements for what we need to put into place for the Title II of ADA. in short, it says that as we do street improvement projects or sidewalk improvements, we will address the ramps pretty much when we get there. There's no requirement that we rush out and do them all at one time. So it does meet the state requirements for a transition plan. And I'd compliment Tim for the work he did on this. He did a nice job.
So what we're asking is a motion to approve the ADA ramp transition plan.
Correct.
That's on your iPad. Any other discussion or questions?
Again, is this, in looking through the attachment, it just kind of shows what we would do? Is that what we're talking about? Just
Right.
not, we've designated 100 or whatever, and we're gonna replace those and.
When we have a street reconstruction project or a sidewalk reconstruction project, we'll address the ramps at that time.
Okay.
As opposed to trying to go out and replace every ramp that doesn't meet current ADA requirements, which would be pretty astronomical for us to go citywide and do that. But we will commit to doing that as we do the street and sidewalk improvements. But they're showing, I mean, it shows what we would do.
Okay.
Those requirements, by the way, have changed over the last few years. What was acceptable, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago is no longer acceptable. They have a different standard, so that can change what we do as well. They just want to know that we're working on it. They want to know that we're committed to upgrading or improving those ramps as we get there.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Hill, seconded by Dallenbach. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Next, I have council committee reports. Was there any committees that's met that had anything they wanted to
I
share?
have one. I guess, I'm not sure what committee it would come through, finance, maybe, or
Yeah.
whichever, but one,